An accident, workers' comp, Social Security, disability. Karl is here every Tuesday. We open up our legal line with questions for him and information. And one thing we get a lot of questions about is workers' comp. What is workers' comp? What does it mean? How do I qualify for workers' comp? What if my employer is not treating me right? Do you have a question like that? 502-267-2422 will answer that question. But let's start off. You got a lot of numbers here, TTD, PPI, and PPD. What does all this mean?
Yeah, with workers' compensation, when you're hurt on the job, if we talked about in past shows, it doesn't matter whose fault it is. I mean, if it's your fault or the employer's fault. You know, TTD, temporary total disability.
Okay.
That means when you're off work, your employer has to pay you a portion of your wages while you're temporarily disabled. PPI, permanent partial impairment, you know, that's for a permanent impairment rating. And permanent partial disability, if you have some permanent injury but you can still work, is a permanent partial disability.
And you have talked about before, we had it up on the screen, Kentucky and Indiana laws, and I believe you have said for the person needing workers' comp that Kentucky laws are a little stronger than Indiana?
Kentucky law is much more favorable. I mean, as far as Indiana versus Kentucky, first of all, the big difference in Kentucky, for the most part, you get to pick your treating doctor, where in Indiana, you have to go to the company doctor, and I think that makes a big difference. And then as far as any final settlement, the settlements are a lot better in Kentucky than in Indiana. Taking
your phone calls, you have questions about workers' comp. Maybe you've slipped somewhere out there, going to a restaurant or going somewhere. Give us a call, 502-267-2422. Karl's here to answer your legal questions, especially on Social Security. And, you know, you keep up with everything that goes on in Washington. The health care debate goes back and forth. Can this potentially, whatever they figure out with health care, would it essentially affect people who have to file a claim with something? Or
yes, absolutely it does, because every day I see people that are hurt whether it's an automobile accident or hurt on premises. And a lot of times people think, and even doctors and hospitals, if it's an automobile accident, they'll want to say, well, it wasn't my fault. Why don't you send the bills to the other driver's insurance company? And I even have to argue with hospitals and doctors who continuously want to just say, well, they won't bill, whether it's private health insurance or not. They want to send the bills to the other driver's insurance company. And so often, so many people don't have any way to pay their bills. I see people every day that don't have any health insurance. Fortunately, Kentucky, if you're in an automobile accident, you have generally would have PIP benefits, PIP, personal injury protection, to pay the first $10,000 of bills. But if it goes beyond that, or if it's not an automobile accident, you're hurt on property, you've got to find a way to get your bills paid. And so many people that I see every day don't have any health insurance. And it's a struggle to try to get treatment because, well, first of all, you got to get better. You know, I tell people whether you have a case or not, you need to take care of yourself. And then second of all, to really prove a claim, you have to have the medical proof.
Well, and the other thing is, Karl, and we got a phone call we're going to take in just a minute, is a lot of people, even if they get the basic health insurance, the deductibles are $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. And if they go into the hospital, they don't even have $3,000. So something's got to be done for those people, especially in this economy. We're taking your phone calls, 502-267-2422. We have Charlotte, I believe, from Louisville. Good morning.
Good morning. My son-in-law, he worked at a place on Riverport, and he injured his back. The place closed and reopened under another name. Would he be able to find out how to contact them? Where he injured himself, and he has been able to work now for it's been almost a year.
Well, and that's a good question, because the coverage, as far as whether it's workers' compensation coverage, would be what was in effect on the day he got hurt. So if he got hurt, today, and then tomorrow the company changes hands or changes insurance companies or goes out of business, it's what is in effect the day that he gets hurt. So that would be the triggering date for whatever company, or whether it's the name of the company or their insurance coverage at the time. It would be on the day he got hurt. And you can easily find out who that company is by calling the Department of Workers' Claims in Frankfurt, and because they have to have on file whoever their insurance company is.
Yeah, and Charlotte, I would recommend you even call Truman Law Office, because if you need more information, or email them, they may want to talk to you in further detail. We're taking your phone calls this morning here, Louisville Live this morning, with attorney Karl Truman. He's here every Tuesday. We have another call. William from Vine Grove, Kentucky. Good morning. Thank you for calling. William, listen to the phone, William, not your TV. There you go. Listen.
My question is this. I got hurt when I was 17.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right, the question is this.
Go ahead.
All right. Now, I'm 40 years old now, and they want to pay me what I was making back when I was 17.
And how were you hurt, William?
Okay.
Well, okay, he's gone. Okay, so I don't understand. Must have been an old injury.
Right, and of course I don't really know the details of his case, so I can't tell William what his facts are. But generally speaking, you have 2 years after you turn. Yeah. Well, and it depends on the type of case. So it's not a blanket rule. So I can't say, I'm not saying this for every situation. Every situation is different. But you know, it could be 1 year or 2 years depending on where it happened, the type of case. But typically speaking, and it even gets more qualified from that. If they're a child, even medical malpractice cases. So I cannot give a blanket rule, but normally the triggering date is when you turn 18.
What I would recommend, William, if you're listening, is send an email or contact the Truman Law Office. Send a detail, 4 or 5 paragraphs of your situation. Let them analyze it, because Karl, even if he can't help you, he can put you in the right direction, and he listens to and takes a lot of emails, and so does his staff in his office. Janice from Louisville, good morning. You have a question for Karl.
Yes, I do. This is in regards to Social Security disability. I was awarded 6 years ago, but as I see, you know, at times it was due to lupus, and I did have to go to see the Social Security doctor, and I was granted, and I used another attorney. But at the same time, I think I'm trying to ask you, the rules have changed to the point that I have a private insurance and then Medicare A and B, and they pick and choose, and they bill my private insurance, but will not file for my Medicare A and B. And with the physicians, is it just our responsibility to make sure these things are taken care of? Because when you go to a doctor, you're trusting him.
Yeah.
Right.
And you don't want to walk away.
Right.
You're unknowledgeable. And I, too, am a former Jefferson County deputy coroner. I'm not that illiterate when it comes to medical.
It does, thank you, Janice, for your call. It gets a little complicated, all these laws, doesn't it?
And I don't know if she's still on. If her private plan, is it a health plan or is it a Medicare
Are you
supplement?
there, Janice?
No, my initial plan is through my husband's job, Metro Government, and they use my secondary as Medicare A and B, but both are to be filed when I see a physician when they do accept Medicare.
Okay.
It appears sometimes that, you know, I'm struggling right now with a primary care doctor to move, and I have, you know, went on to another doctor because he was doing in-house tests without communicating with my other doctor.
All right, Janice. Janice, you know, and you listen, she's very concerned. She has a lot of information, and I'm sure reason Karl's here, so Karl could figure all this out, because the laws change, the rules change, this plan and that plan.
And Medicare and the billing codes are so complicated. It's the doctors have trouble keeping up with it. It's so complicated looking at the diagnostic codes and billing codes. But generally speaking, Medicare considers themselves secondary to other insurance. So Medicare is probably going to require that they bill other insurance first. And I'm just guessing that that's usually what Medicare does. So they'll probably want the other health insurance billed first. But that's something to talk to the billing department with your doctor about.
Janice, thank you very much for your call, and we appreciate all your calls. And Carl, every Tuesday he's here, and we appreciate it. And